Hey ladies and gents, welcome back. This is going to be part 3 to What If Naruto had a Domination seal. So with that being said, let's do a brief recap of what happened in the last part before getting into the new material of the What If itself. So in the last part, well, they got back into the village and the Chunin exams actually started, and all I really have to say about the Chunin exams is that Kiba kinda fucked his dog, but whatever about that one. I don't know why I said that in the last part, but by golly, I kept it in because I thought it was hilarious. So anyway, let's just get into the new material of the What If itself. So Sasuke's fight in the Chunin exams would actually come next, and he'd win pretty easily against the opponent he fought because he doesn't have a curse mark, meaning he doesn't have... Basically, he's able to use chakra, so he pretty easily wins his fight, and Sakura still draws against Ino because... fucking useless, apparently. So... Anyway, with that being said, the next part of the Chunin exams would actually take place, I think it's 2 months later. It's either a month or 2 months later. So Naruto would begin train. Since Sakura has her whole, order to basically protect Naruto, because, she's kind of Naruto's slave at this point. With that whole thing happening, Naruto decides that that's who he's going to train with. It'll be a pretty good punching dummy as long as he doesn't accidentally, kill her or anything. Come on, let's be honest here. Nobody cares if Sakura's the punching dummy. So Naruto begins training his powers. He thinks it's fine if he undoes his, what am I even calling it? His little power on Sakura to try using different ones. Seeing exactly what kind of, things he can say to make Sakura do. He tests this for a while before getting rather bored, and he wants to test something else. Does his sword have any special properties other than the fact that it can cut a lot relatively easily? So Naruto activates the seal and he draws his sword. He's looking at it and he doesn't really notice anything too interesting on it. He puts it back in its sheath or inside of the seal, and then he draws the dagger. And on the dagger he actually notices something. There's some writing towards the base of the dagger that Naruto never noticed before because of how small it was. He begins trying to read it. He is trying to look really closely. It's really fucking small. Naruto looks at it really closely, and the second Naruto's actually able to read what it is, it lights up. The blade that Naruto has, we'll say, is it's a pretty nice red color, and a purple light shines off of where that incantation, is what I'm going to call it, actually was. As Naruto reads it, the dagger actually extends in length. Naruto's pretty intrigued. He's like, what the fuck? Why? I just got another sword. Why do I have another sword? Naruto looks at the little text that is on the sword again, or dagger, whatever you actually want to call it at this point, and it says that the current special ability that it's using is basically enlarge. Naruto's wondering, are there other abilities? Naruto continues looking at the sword/dagger, and eventually he would flip it around, and he sees that there's more text on the other side of it. Naruto again gets closer, the text is really small, and he begins to read what it is. It, once again, lights up with a pink light this time, because, different powers have different colors, because, I can do that now. So, with Naruto actually reading it, it again lights up, and the sword, or dagger, once again begins to change a little bit. The length of the blade stays the same, however, the red blade turns to a really, really dark black, almost like a void whenever Naruto is looking into it. And the second the black hits to the end of the blade, and it's no longer red whatsoever at all, Naruto quickly basically lurches from where he is, and he begins, the sword is basically pulling him away. The sword seems to be getting attracted to different entities, and Naruto keeps getting basically pulled in different directions, depending on what he's focusing on at the current moment. Naruto keeps getting dragged toward these, and eventually Naruto, he just sheathes the dagger. He's intrigued by what he just witnessed/felt, but he needs to figure out exactly what that is before he tries to use it further. So Naruto does what any logical person would do, and he tries to use it further, trying to figure out what it is. Naruto activates the seal once again, this time with even more power, thinking that maybe that has something to do with the power of the sword. Maybe if he activates the power with, more power, I guess you could say, it would attract him even faster towards whatever the object he's trying to go to is. Naruto once again draws the dagger, and he basically... What should I call this little sword power thing? I don't know, black hole, except it attracts you to a thing? That doesn't even make sense. Whatever. I'm calling it black hole because, it looks like a black hole because reasons. Yeah, whatever. or the Void Blade, whatever the fuck I decide to call it later on. I don't give a fuck. Whenever Naruto actually uses it in a fight, I'll decide what the name I want it to be is. So, Naruto once again activates that power as the blade once again changes from red to black. And Naruto quickly begins basically going in some random direction, towards a tree. Naruto tries to stop it. He tries to focus on other things, trying to clear his mind, trying to empty it. Naruto is barely just able to do it before he slams into the tree, and he gets knocked unconscious. Because, momentum doesn't just stop. Naruto would still get sent flying towards the tree. So Naruto wakes up hours later, and when he wakes up, he sees that Sakura is standing above him. She's kind of crying at this point because she was unable to protect Naruto, because that's kind of like what she's supposed to be doing. And Naruto's like, oh, well, did I fucking ask, woman? He's really like, he's kind of annoyed, but he's like, whatever. Whatever floats your boat, Sakura. So Naruto stands up. He's pretty much completely healed because, the Nine Tails is inside of him. He heals real quick like that. And Naruto once again takes out the dagger. He needs to figure out exactly how to use it. He just barely managed to empty his mind before. He needs to constantly have his mind in that empty state, not focusing on certain things, yet still being able to battle and, think without, He's basically trying to, attack and block and do everything like that without actually, thinking and doing anything like that. Fucking Ultra Instinct, basically, bullshit right here. So, Naruto once again draws the dagger as it begins changing to the I almost said crimson black. That is not a color. The black color once again. So, Naruto empties his mind. He focuses on it as hard as he can, and he's successfully able to do it. Once again opening his eyes, Naruto is standing there with the sword, and he looks down at it. It isn't being attracted to anything, and Naruto is finally relieved. He lets out a breath, and his mind begins to fill with things again. The first thing that was in Naruto's line of vision is actually Sakura, so that's the first thing Naruto begins to think about. As Naruto lunges towards Sakura, the sword first, obviously, Naruto's flying behind it because of how fast it's traveling, and Sakura literally is, screaming at this point. Naruto hasn't given her any orders for, her to not be startled when Naruto lunges forward towards her, about to kill her with a sword, but Naruto barely just manages to deflect the sword out of the way after clearing his mind, as Naruto literally tackles Sakura down. Naruto gets up relatively uninjured, but when he turns around, he sees Sakura there laying on the floor unconscious. It's like, oh, whoops. Maybe I should have done this by myself. Naruto's deciding that maybe this wasn't such a good idea. So he leaves Sakura there sitting on the floor, and he begins to wander away. He gets a mile away, and now he decides he wants to test something. Does the thing have to be in his line of sight, or can he think about something and automatically just warp over there at really fast speeds? Naruto tries it, and it doesn't work. I'm not making Naruto that overpowered. It's not like a fucking homing missile. So it has to be in Naruto's line of sight in order for it to actually work, and it cannot teleport through dimensions. So Obito can still phase through it. It isn't going to cut Obito if Obito uses Kamui, is basically what I'm trying to say. So Naruto isn't that OP. Yet. So Naruto once again returns to the village. It's probably been 2 days basically at this point, and he's kind of tired of training. He wants to get around. The first thing he does is go to Hinata. Hinata doesn't even have to be put under a spell, and Naruto smashes. Come on, let's be honest here. He then goes to Sakura after he gets bored of Hinata, and he begins going with her too. At this point, Naruto lasts so much longer than any of the girls that it's relatively easy for him to just move on from one to the other. He can do it for 5 hours at a time. The girl will be completely exhausted, and Naruto's just that was halfway. So Naruto continues to go around the village. He eventually gets to another person. So far, it's just been Hinata and Sakura that Naruto's been doing it with. But Naruto wants to reach his climax, something that he hasn't actually been able to do yet because everybody always falls unconscious or it's just not good. Naruto realizes that his stamina is a problem. He can go for too long. This isn't right. This shouldn't be how it works. So Naruto goes to the next person down the street. He walks out of Sakura's house and he turns to his right. Nobody really there, but then he turns to the left as he sees somebody that intrigued him a little bit. She was pretty thick, Naruto thought, and he's just that is a good option right there. As Naruto begins walking toward Ino, obviously, because reasons. Blonde hair, cool. Naruto has blonde hair, epic. So Naruto begins walking over to Ino, who has heard of the false accusations against Naruto, quote-unquote false, I guess you could say, and she invites Naruto into her house because she's a smart young woman. So she asks Naruto exactly what he's doing around here, and Naruto's just like, I guess I kind of just got bored and kind of wandering around the village at this point, and I saw you, and I was like, oh, hey. So I kind of walked over. So, it's like, oh, yeah, that adds up. So, what do you want to do? Naruto is just like, it depends. Naruto wants to test it. He doesn't need to use his powers. He doesn't want to use his powers if he doesn't have to, basically. So Naruto is like, okay, well, I wonder if I could smash without using my powers. That would be a massive sign of my chattery. I don't even have to use my powers on her, and I can, have fun. So Naruto begins slowly seducing Ino because, Naruto's just cool like that. Naruto's domination powers also gave him this cool, smooth demeanor around girls. So Naruto slowly begins seducing Ino, and eventually the time would come. It's probably been about an hour now because of Naruto's pretty smooth ways. He managed to slide his way right into Ino's pants. So Naruto does it with Ino without even having to use his powers because Naruto is just cool like that. So Naruto leaves. He finally managed to reach the climax it has been trying to go for so long now. It took about 15 hours, but it's whatever. Naruto managed. So Naruto walks out of Ino's house now. Ino basically kind of like laying there on her bed. She ain't getting up for a while. Is basically how Naruto's thinking about this. So Naruto, finally relieved, he goes back to his house to go to bed. Naruto sleeps for a while and eventually he wakes up. He gets up and begins wandering around the village once again. He goes to Ichiraku's ramen to go get some ramen, and he eats it. He begins talking to Ichiraku and his daughter. Isn't that his name? I think so. I don't remember. So, and they begin talking. Naruto's like, okay. What do I have to do to get this recipe? I want to make it myself because I don't really have that much money as a Genin ninja. So they debate this for a while, and Naruto's like, wait a minute. I don't have to do this bullshit, as he uses his power on them. He tells them, give me the fucking recipe, and they obviously do so because Naruto's just that cool now. So they give Naruto the recipe to this thing, and then he's just like, oh wait, fuck, ingredients. Naruto's like, oh, this power may come in handy. Once again, Naruto looks at them and he's just like, yo, you guys should set up a really nice kitchen in my little house up there, along with giving me, let's say, a month's worth of ramen ingredients that I can use to cook stuff with. They're like, oh, sure, Naruto, because, Naruto's, domination power basically makes them, and they end up giving Naruto all these different things. Naruto is beginning to like this new ability more and more, the more he uses it, because, obviously, the more power you have, say Naruto has a shit ton of power. Naruto's going to like his power even more and begin using it even more. And Naruto eventually is getting it to that point where nobody really likes him anymore. And if they don't like him, then Naruto can just use his power on them. Be like, forget everything you just saw, or just pretend you don't hate me, basically. So it's been about a week now. Naruto's been chilling around, eating ramen, doing the random thing, and he decides, you know what? He's horny again. So Naruto goes back to all of those different girls. Each of them only lasting 3 hours this time, not actually having enough rest to fully restore themselves. Yeah, it's been a week, and they haven't, so that's a fun thing. So Naruto is still 6 hours away from his climax, and Naruto wants it again. Naruto, before he actually, reached that point before, he would have been fine. He didn't know what it felt like, but now Naruto's like, you know what? No. I gotta reach that point again. So Naruto, once again, as he's walking out of Ino's house, turns to the left. There's nobody there. But then when he turns to the right, past Sakura's house, Naruto sees something that he's been intrigued in for quite a while now. This being Tenten. So Naruto walks over there, and once again, he's just like, you know what? I wonder if I could do this again, as he begins trying to use his smooth demeanor to start trying to seduce Tenten. However, she ain't having it. She is completely and utterly infatuated with Neji, and she will have nothing to do with Naruto because she sees him as worse than Neji. Naruto is just like, fuck, whatever, as he casts his spell onto her. Obviously, this spell is going to last her entire life, and Naruto is just like, whenever I want to fuck, you're going to let me fuck, and you ain't going to do shit about it. So Naruto uses his power on Tenten once again, and Tenten obviously instantly is just like, so, you want to fuck then? And Naruto's obviously going to do that. Because of the fact that Naruto still has 6 hours, because that is definitely how time works, like it definitely wouldn't like reduce. Don't question my thought process. No, we'll just say that Naruto reaches his little thing, because I don't feel like having Naruto go fuck another girl already. Like, come on, it's only been like a week. So eventually the time would come where the Chunin exams starts once again, as everybody enters it. So Naruto, actually beginning this whole little battle, would begin fighting against Neji. Naruto completely dicks down Neji. He decides he doesn't even really want to use that weird cloud power again. He got kind of bored of it. And he's just like, you know what? I wonder what would happen if I used my sword or dagger on him. He takes out his dagger, and he instantly clears his mind and goes to that black blade form. Naruto then, it doesn't really attract to anything, and Naruto begins. He's like, he thinks of Neji. He releases the sword, letting it go, as the sword flies towards Neji, who dodges out of the way relatively easily, thinking that it's just going to go flying into a wall. Naruto must have just thrown it. But then, using his Byakugan, he can see the sword turned around and is now basically rocketing towards him once again. Neji continues dodging out of the way, but slowly/gradually the sword is speeding up, accelerating, and it's going faster and faster and faster, and eventually Neji is not going to be able to dodge out of the way of it. So the sword goes directly into him, and he kind of falls to the ground. The sword's only in his leg, but that's still gonna fucking hurt a hell of a lot. The sword goes straight through and out the other end and into Naruto's hand now that it had met its target. Naruto sheathes the sword or puts it inside of a seal, and he begins walking up to Neji, who hasn't completely resigned yet, and he's still only on one knee. Naruto reels his hand back, and he shoves it forward into Neji's face, sending him flying upwards before he jumps up, and he kicks Neji back to the ground with enough force to leave a crater in the ground, with Neji laying in the bottom of it completely unconscious. So, that was a fun one. So, Naruto wins that, and Sasuke, or not, I guess who even is, I don't remember who's next, whatever. Sasuke fights Gaara. The fight would go pretty much exactly the same, and eventually speaking, Naruto has to, jump in and has to fight Gaara himself. He's just like, you know what? I'm gonna use another new trick. So, Naruto, using 2 powers so far, has been able to easily solo and win the Chunin exam. So Naruto is just like, I wonder what the next ability I should use is going to be. Remember, Naruto's been gaining abilities relatively quickly since he gained this power. It's only been a few months since he's actually had it. So Naruto is just like, I wonder if I gained a new ability over that month that I was quote-unquote training for the Chunin exams that I haven't discovered yet. Naruto focuses, because, this is just how Naruto gains powers now. He focuses, and he pours shit tons of power into the seal, as it glows a really bright purple. It's like a completely massive aura around the seal as it slowly begins to shrink, seemingly absorbing into the seal because of all the power that Naruto's shoving inside of it. The seal eventually does unlock a new power, and this power is going to be Naruto's debatably newest and most powerful thing. Powerful in the sense of raw physical power, not terms of I'm gonna control you now. So that power is going to be the Chain of Demise. Quite an interesting name, as 10 chains begin sprouting out of Naruto's body, before swirling around him constantly, forming a protective barrier around Naruto. Similar to that of Gaara's sand barrier or Neji's basically rotation. Naruto, basically, from watching this, was just like, new ability type, baby, and I'm gonna use it for protection / it's not really protection if I'm being honest. So, one of these chains, Naruto commands to go and kill Gaara. This chain flies over towards Gaara at insane speeds, even faster than the sword after a pretty large amount of acceleration. And it flies towards Gaara, who is completely and utterly unable to react. He barely even saw the chain move, let alone being able to dodge out of the way of it. The chain smashes straight through Gaara's stomach, and it comes out the other end, before basically going back and wrapping itself around Gaara, slamming him down to the ground, sending him basically, he dead. Let's be honest here, Gaara fucking dead. He gets slammed into the ground as Gaara's deceased body lays there in a crater beneath Naruto and his chains. Naruto falls to the ground because his chains let him fucking fly, because, why not? So, that's where I'm going to leave this part off. I'll see you guys in part 4. Peace out, bye.